ain't going back. Not gonna buy into all that. Hey, hey, ain't gonna hide. Gonna let all the fears slide. Got Mother Nature, it's on my side. Got all of the loving growing inside.
On your screen now is I am Saums. I am so nice to see you again. This is Russ. He's been working with us, Russ Bauer, and helping us for years and years and years. I've known him for 8 or 9 years. Thank you so much for coming here to join us.
We've probably known
Hi,
each
Russ,
other.
how are you?
I'm really actually quite happy. We've probably known each other in many reincarnations before this, but it's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Saums. Are you a veteran?
Yeah, it's nice to meet you
You're a
too.
veteran as well as a you're a military
Good
guy?
one. So, how you guys doing?
We're doing good. Russ has to. Are you a veteran as well? He asked that question. I know we never discussed.
No, I'm not.
No. Okay, me neither. Not other wars perhaps, but not those kind.
So the Sundancer in you. When I first came to Alberta, I started having dreams.
Okay.
Like serious dreams. I know nothing about the Plains Indians at all, and I started having dreams about being a Sundancer.
Really?
And then I started having dreams about being an eagle.
Oh, okay.
Then I started having dreams about being a raven.
Good one.
Why not?
Now it's just dreams
Sure.
of fire, and the birds just watch.
Sure.
So and maybe you can tell our viewers, like I said, there's not so many people watching right now, but this is going to be recorded and put out to many people after the fact. We're going to put it up on our event and on our website. So maybe you can give a bit of background about yourself for the people. I'm very interested in how you became a Sundancer as well, and perhaps how that ties into being an independent, manly man standing up for yourself and deciding what's best in your life.
Well, Russ, it's nice to meet you. Lorenzo, it's good to see you again, visually. So about 17 years ago, a gentleman that had been leading our community locally here in Michigan in ceremony, which was at the time mostly sweats, or what they call sweats, but he invited me to come, and I had no idea what it was. I didn't know what sundancing was. I didn't know what I had no idea what type of commitment that was, the intensity of the commitment or the intensity of the experience. And honestly, after the first year, I was about, I think, 30 at the time. And after the first year, I was like, yeah, I'm good. I don't know if I want to do this again, because it was that hard, And the first time I did participate was in South Dakota, and I think it was probably like an average of about 105 degrees or something like that every day. And it was very difficult. I mean, it took me at least an hour and a half after every day to just kind of come back into my body. That's how intense the experience was. But so for me, it just kind of went from year to year. And now the Sundance we just had was my 17th year. And it's a very powerful experience. It's a very intense experience. And it's a very beautiful way to pray, especially with a group of people that are committed similarly to that prayer.
Yeah, I work with Dr. Richard Allen Miller and a blood elder up here in Edmonton, Dwayne Goodstriker, and we were talking about the drumming and how in between, because it's a longitudinal wave, there's intention between the pulses, and somehow that's imparting a message to the whole environment.
Oh, absolutely. It's the heartbeat of the. Pardon?
Or did it get too deep too quick? Because to me, it was fascinating.
No, that's all right. I mean, I've been there for the last 3 weeks, so
yeah,
I'm already
the
there.
drumming to me, I never really looked at the drumming that way until. So you have a circle of intention, And that intention is going out to the environment.
Very much so. And in the experiences that I've had in the Lakota dances that we participated in, the drum is the heartbeat. It's without the drum you have no dance. So it's the songs, it's the beat, the resonance of the drum, it's the history and drum, and it's the lineage also of the drum and the songs that go back, all the way to the beginning.
So are you saying that they're able to impart intention into the drum? Like as it goes from generation to generation?
I believe that that's a part of the very nature of the drum and the songs that are sung. Specific songs are sung at certain times, whether it's a Sundance or any other ceremony that are specific to a call. And so there are times when you are calling, you're calling through a song for healing, or you're calling through a song for vision, or you're calling through a song for energy, or you're calling through a song for the ancestors to support you, those that are gone from the world. And, there's acknowledgement of the four directions, which is pretty common throughout many different cultures around the world. And there's calls for a lot of different purposes. I won't get too deep into it now, but I mean, there is definitely an intention and a purpose behind the songs and the frequency of the songs in which they're sung, and the drum when it's being played.
We go
That's
way
really
down a
interesting.
rabbit hole.
No, that makes sense. A long time ago when I first went to BC, I remember there was a lady that wanted to take me through a drum journey on a beach to find my power animal, which was really, really cool. Like, you brought back this story, and at the time, it was maybe 20 years ago, I was a bit of a dunderhead, and I said, sure. I didn't believe anything of what she said. I didn't believe I was going to go through any sort of ceremony or anything like that. I was just kind of camping out in a van at the time, sitting on a beach. It was a friend of mine's girlfriend. And she says, well, I'm going to take you through a ceremony. We're going to find your power animal, and this was, like I said, kind of at night with some candles. We found a driftwood kind of enclosure, which she put me in, which was very interesting, and did this drum journey. And I remember lying there going, well, I'm going to choose a lion, or I'm going to choose a tiger, or, as being a man, what power animal am I going to choose? Something tough and scary. And, next thing I knew, next thing I knew, I dropped out of the sky, and I smelled musk, and it was dusty, and I was running really fast, and it stank, to a smell I've never smelled before. And I literally found myself running in a herd of elephants. It was the strangest experience I ever had. And so, like, I'm running, and there's this obviously huge ass in front of me, big elephant ass, like this huge bull elephant. And in the middle of running, he just stopped, and I had no choice but to stop or run into him, and turned around, bent his head down, looked at me with one eye, and basically gave me a feeling that you're nothing. Look how small you are, in the middle of this. It was just, and then, so obviously I became very, influenced by such things, and realized an elephant is probably my power animal. And they gave me the best wisdom at the time when I was full of myself and full of my ego that, don't be so full of yourself, basically, was a lesson I got. And there was much more to this journey that maybe I'll talk about another time, but I was just feeling what you said about the intent of the drum and how that they can take you to other worlds and through what you're learning.
Little people. I went and did a offering with Elder Goodstriker with tobacco and to the little people. You have any?
So I am. What do you think about all of this in relation to being a strong man and standing up for yourself? Like obviously you didn't start as a sun dancer. If I recall, you're British originally, or you're from England.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, well, my lineages are predominantly from Ireland.
Okay.
So you're a Celt.
Yeah. And you believe it or not, I've talked with Lorenzo about this, Russ, but believe it or not, I have sisters that are English, so there's a bit of a rivalry. But for me,
Well, the only reason
I
snicker is
feel
because
like in many ways through my
a very good friend
experience.
of mine is the medicine man for the Hinton Cree, and he's Norwegian. And the same thing with the blood.
Oh, okay.
It's knowledge that pushes you up through the tribal structure. So they don't care so much about blood unless it comes down
Good
to
one.
like the clan stuff. But when it comes to running the tribe, it's knowledge, or at least that's the experiences that I'm having here.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's funny because he was teaching me about Indian medicine. He said it's all about intention.
So getting back to what you were talking about, so I think in many ways my experience or my experiences over the last 17 years have probably introduced me to a side of my masculinity that I hadn't been present to for many years. You know, I mean, we could be men, but I think a lot of the times it requires a certain level of awareness and consciousness and practice of finding a balance within ourselves to be able to get present to what that means for us, you know, as masculine or, you know, men or whatever. And so over the course of the 17 years and the experiences I had through that prayer, it really helped to define and clarify what masculinity was for me individually. And I think that was, and I guess you really, when you're in that prayer, you really have to stand for it because of how difficult it is, and how much it takes from you in the process.
So what do you mean? Like I mean, I understand what you're saying, but can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's very rigorous. It's 4 days, no food, no water. It's in the sun. You know, it's a constant prayer for, you know, 8, 9, 10 hours of the day, and it puts you into a very different space within yourself, or at least for me. I guess I'll speak for myself and my experience. And it in many ways it establishes your strength. It establishes your prayer. It establishes your courage and willingness to be able to do what you can to find that prayer and then to express that prayer. If that makes sense.
So one of the issues I find with our youth is there's no rite of passage from boy to man. And that's you know, might be, you know, part of the process that you went through was, you know, that my mother threw me into a work camp when I was 16 years old up in Manning Park, and I had to hump a 25-pound back of box of nails and a 5-pound mattock and my lunch up to the top of a mountain and work our way back down into camp every day for 3 months. And when I came back out of that, I mean, that's how I can respect what you've done.
Yeah, I agree with you, Russ,
Especially
because
being
I think
Irish out in
that
the fucking
in this
105
day and
degree
age, and even like
temperature,
when
oh my
I was
God.
of that age, when I was moving, oh, it's sometimes worse. It's more like 115 sometimes. At least that's what I remember. And you're just dancing to keep your feet off the ground because it's so hot. But I agree with you though, Russ, that in contemporary times, and even when I was growing up, from my teen years into early adulthood, there isn't really a rite of passage unless you really look for it. That's out there for young men or teenagers to be able to go through, to be able to develop themselves
And
and to
they're desperate
establish and
for it. They're
clarify
desperate for it. They are
what those
desperate for it.
things are.
That was we were talking about the Boy Scouts earlier on, and about how they've degraded everything that is good and turned it into something perverse.
Sure.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and I think it's, to some degree, it's almost non-existent, that rite of passage. In the Boy Scouts or the Cub Scouts or something like that is a good example for an organization to have that rite of passage. But overall, as a culture, I don't believe we have, at least in this country, in the United States, we don't really have a cultural rite of passage that can be identified as a process for people to grow into adulthood or manhood.
Yeah, they strip away your
And I would
spirituality
dare
and
to say
sell
that
it
I think a
back.
lot of the,
Oh, there's a little lag. They strip
pardon?
away your spirituality and sell it back to you as Disney. And then on the rite of passage, it's
Sure.
join a gang,
That's
or the army.
sure.
And that's
Yeah, there's not a lot of options. There's not a lot of opportunities.
I belong to a cricket and rugby club back in Victoria, BC, and we have a very, very strong junior development because there's nothing for the kids anymore in the community. They shut down all the community centers, and if it's, or you go to the YMCA and you got to pay. If you don't have money, there's nothing for the kids. They got to go to the park.
Yeah.
And there has been a systematic removal of the father from the family. So
Sure.
it's how old are you?
How old am I?
Yeah.
In about 2 weeks, I'll turn 50.
Okay, so I just turned 64. So we've seen a bit of change along the way. But
No, I'm thinking.
But I agree. I agree with what you're saying, though, Russ. Because personally, when I was, I think about 9 or 10, my dad left my mom and our family, and he ended up marrying my stepmother, who's still now my stepmother, and my brother and I didn't have that father figure. And then when we did have the father figure, it was Vietnam veteran that had some problems, and it resulted in a lot of abuse and stuff like that. And so even though it made both of us stronger over time, it was very rude awakening. It was a crash course in rite of passage. And it's amazing to me how often that might happen in our culture these days, that the rite of passage is of that nature, as opposed to something that's more constructive.
Yeah, there's my father was a lieutenant commander in the Canadian Navy, submariner. So he was deployed for 300 days a year at sea sometimes. So I literally, it was me and my brother and my little sister brought each other up. My mom worked. So, my rite of passage was Manning Park and, humping those boxes of nails up the top of the mountain and back every day. And when I came back, I was totally changed. And we used to have mandatory conscription here in Canada. You go into the military for 2 years, and they would make you into something. It's the same, same thing in Switzerland. Anywhere where you have, and I hate to, I don't like the army as the model, but some kind of, I don't know.
Well, I think it's why we're doing what we're doing.
Stand straight,
I think it's why we're doing what we're doing. It's one of the reasons I asked I am onto this is to allow people to share, perhaps the ways that we've become men, perhaps the ways that we found, the way through our own systems and challenges. What we've done as, I explained a little bit about my drum journey. I am talking a little bit about how he's going to become a sun dancer. So maybe, again, Russ, let's allow I am to talk about his experience and what he might suggest to the other men listening or they're going to listen on how they can go through their own challenges to become stronger in what they need to share and what they need to do, and how maybe they can learn to be brave in the face of the voice that's telling them not to be.
Before I do that, I want to point out that what Russ was and has been talking about regarding the military, I mean, in this day and age, the military may be the only cultural rite of passage that actually exists that impacts millions of lives, you know? And even though personally I don't know if I agree with some of the intentionalities around the military, especially in this day and age, it is definitely a rite of passage for millions and millions of people, you know, both men and women now. And so that might be one of the main cultural rites of passage that exists right now in the world in relation to that experience that cultivates maturity. So it's a good point that you made, Russ, that in regards to the military and its existence, and you know, it's not all bad. I mean, it helps a lot of people. It gives them education, and it also gives them structure, discipline, and it gives them a sense of pride and self-respect, you know, which is, like you were saying earlier, Russ, is something that's missing, you know, quite a bit in our culture. I guess what I would say, in my experience, personally, from teenage to adulthood and to maturity and, you know, now gray hair, so to speak, I think the biggest thing for me, from my perspective, is, and you were speaking, Lorenzo, earlier about standing for yourself and you know, standing to empower yourself and so on and so forth. I think people, the thing that I would say is that, you know, if people can get present to themselves, you know, who they are outside of society and outside of reality and outside of the position they may have in the marketplace, or outside of who even they perceive themselves to be. You know, if they can get present to who they could become, or the possibility or the potential of who they could become, that's like the most empowering stand that any of us can make, because we all have a very unique and individual expression and benefit to give the world, a gift to give the world. And so that would be the thing that I would say to anybody, that finding out what our vision is, finding out what our focus is, finding out what our intention is, our expression is, and ultimately manifesting that in the world to make a difference for ourselves and others. That's the way that I would say would be the best perspective and approach.
I would agree. You know, straight to the point is to find out what it is you would like to create and to make it real for yourself. Okay, hold on a second. Just let me move something here. I'm going to. All right. Yeah, just getting a bit of background noise. So, you know, I agree. You know, is you really got to, you know, you really got to see what's working for yourself. You really got to feel what you want to do. You really got to do it and not be afraid of what people think of you, I would think, you know, and then to kind of, you know, it's funny too that all the men, you know, you mentioned you're you know, almost 50, I'm 58. It seems most of the real men that I'm talking to and seeing are of that age right now, you know, because a lot of the younger people maybe haven't had the experiences or the opportunity to grow a pair yet, I guess could be the best way to put it. Like, what do you think in relation to, you know, the differences between, you know, how you're raised and maybe how you see some of the other younger men coming along these days as an opportunity for what they can do if they're not in the army, so to speak, to feel for themselves how they can go through their own rites of passage?
Well, I'm sure that there are several organizations, or there are other rites of passage, you know, like what Russ was talking about with the Boy Scout organization, even though they kind of went through a difficult path in the last couple of years, or the 2 years ago or whatever. But there's, you know, it's got to be more than just falling into some sort of a social group of men. You know, it's got to be more than football. You know, like it's got to be more than a bunch of guys getting together to just watch football. It's got to be more than guys getting together talking about ladies or whatever. It's got to be something that's meaningful. It's got to be
for us,
like what Russ was saying earlier about how he would go camping, or how he would climb, or go through certain practices to be able to establish, that rite of passage or that strength. I think, if you had a group of guys go out and camp, no television, no cell phones, no nothing, like even go on a hike, do like a part of the PCT out west, or something like that. That's a virtual rite of passage in many ways, like to be able to go on a hike like that, even for like a few miles even. That's something that sets us away from or apart from society and reality, and the roles that we play and the positions that we hold, so that we can actually step outside of it and become something more than, who we are on a daily basis.
I would agree.
We've got to go back to learning how to be okay with being guys.
Sure. And I spoke with
Hey, guys are
in
supposed
the
to be
past.
attracted to girls, Girls are supposed to be attracted to guys.
Sure.
It's ridiculous, but it's been a systematic atomization of society and culture, so that we can't form groups to resist.
Sure.
And one of the things that we've done with Elder Goodstriker is getting the young men back into their own culture and away from the gang mentality, and back out into the woods and learning how to do something out in the woods. We haven't had much success so far. It's been a bit of a grind, but with great challenges come great success. That's the Thomas Paine. Great challenge, great success. Yeah, you got me down, but you can't keep me down.
Yeah, and I think also too, it's being able to find freedom from like the social encouraged macho man behavior, like the machismo, or the bravado, or the blind pride, and to get into an energetic element of it. How men, I know women probably do this too, but men have a tendency, in my opinion, to throw their energy around, and a lot of the times it's a very unconscious expression, but and nowadays you can see it more with what's going on in the world. There's an energetic bullying happening, and a lot of the times the guys that are doing that aren't even aware of what they're doing or the impacts it's having on the people around them.
They never matured from high school.
No.
They never matured from high school. No one punched them in the face and said, you know what, that you can't be like that. I've got a martial arts background, and so I always kind of relate things to, like, how many times have you been punched in the head? I spent 14 years running the nightclubs in Victoria and Vancouver with guys trying to take my head off 4 or 5 times a night because I wore a tie and I looked like Richard Cunningham.
Sure. Yes, I mean, like that happened to me when I was younger. When I was in high school, we were coming back from playing soccer during school, and I said something that I regretted in the moment, and I got punched in the face, and that turned me around, But it's like being able to like pull yourself out of your own experience, in my opinion. I mean, I think we get so ingrained in our own experience, especially now with all the fear and anxiety going on in the world, that we establish our bubble and we just don't want to go outside of the bubble. And it's about being able to break out of our own experience and really experience things beyond our own perception, beyond our own fear.
False evidence appearing real.
I would agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would agree.
We are all subjected to menticide at the moment, and it's fear and anxiety that crushes the mind.
And you got to take a chance to look silly.
Yeah.
Sure. But I think that fear can be transmuted and transformed into courage or strength or love or creativity or imagination or many other things.
The little girl who said courage is contagious. What, you got a
Sure.
10-year-old girl come down here and make you guys look like a bunch of pussies? Well, that's what it takes. 10-year-old girl.
Sure.
Yeah. But we are so encapsulated in fear. It's, I see it up here in Edmonton. I've seen it everywhere I look. It's like, hey, you know what? There's more of us than them. Anyhow.
Yeah, and it's interesting too that the macho guys or the guys with bravado or pride or whatever, a lot of those guys are just, like you said, scared, elementary students or
mankind, not
scared.
very manly and certainly not very kind.
No, and it's amazing to me how often it happens where men in this world just can't communicate beyond that level of education or understanding.
Yeah,
There's no emotional awareness.
We're not allowed to use the word love. Lorenzo and I were talking about it earlier, how badly maligned the word love has become. We're not allowed to love each other. We're not allowed to have compassion. And right now, we're either all innocent or we are all guilty. But what we need more than anything else is we need compassion for each other.
Sure.
We need,
Yeah, and I think acceptance and understanding is a big thing too, Russ, honestly. I mean, especially with how contentious and divisive everything is these days in society. It's like if somebody can just listen to somebody else's perception that doesn't match their own, that speaks more volumes than trying to debate somebody about politics or vaccination or virus or whatever, I mean, if you could just listen to somebody without waiting to respond and retaliate and debate,
The greatest interview I ever saw was with Marilyn Manson after the Columbine shooting. And the interviewer was trying to put the Marilyn Manson character on the spot. He goes, because they listened to his song, they used his song as the thesis for going out and murdering all those other kids. And they said, "What would you have told those kids if you could have had a chance?" And he turned around and said, "I wouldn't have told them nothing. I would have sat and listened."
Yeah. Yeah, that interview was in Bowling for Columbine, Michael Moore's movie.
Yeah. It actually turns out Michael Moore, yeah. There's no bad guys. There's no good guys. There's just gray.
Yeah.
We have to define. When all this mess started out, I belonged to a cricket club in Victoria. One of the old timers came and said, how come everything's falling apart? And I said, we cannot have cohesive society when we don't share common values.
All right, fellow, just a second. Let me introduce. I'd like to introduce Cambell Purvis from Autodidactic. We brought a fourth man on to chat, to bring it up. Cambell, this is I am on the top right corner. I am Saums. We shared lots of good information. I am.
Hey, Cambell.
He's done amazing stuff on his channel, Autodidactic, which probably everyone knows means to teach yourself. So Cambell, maybe you can introduce yourself a bit. I'm going to just take a short break. I'm happy you're here. You can stay as long as you want, or, I know you came on at the last second, so as long as you can and stay to chat, you're more than welcome to. And let's continue our talk on manliness, how to be a strong man, how to stand up for yourself. Hey, Cambell, welcome. Nice to see your smile, and welcome to our little podcast here. You're still muted.
You have to unmute yourself.
You have to unmute yourself, yeah.
All right, smoking.
Okay, how's that? Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Yes, hello. Okay, hello everyone. Yes, I'm Cambell. I've got a couple of channels, Autodidactic and Spiral Up, where I talk about alternative history, things like this. And my Spiral Up is all about sort of mindfulness, empowerment and that kind of stuff. So, I'm pretty much just out there, just trying to let people know that the power's in them, and that whatever they need to do or want to do, they just need to look inside it and put some action in and go for it. And that all this programming we've been fed that we're not enough and all this kind of stuff really needs to be thrown away, because it's just that's the trap, isn't it? They've got us in this trap where they've programmed us into believing that we're not enough. Obviously the massive attack on the family and men is going on, you know, demasculinity. So yeah, that's pretty much what I do. I just get out there and research and talk and get the message out, and yeah, having fun doing it.
So are either of you guys aware of Yuri Bezmenov's work?
Oh, sorry, what was that?
Are either of you guys, excuse me, are either of you guys aware of Yuri Bezmenov's work?
No.
So Yuri was a KGB handler that was assigned to India that fell in love with an Indian girl and then kind of defected. In that process, he got outed and he actually defected here to Canada, and he operated under the name Thomas Schulman, and he worked for CBC. But he's got a series of lectures about exactly the situation we are in right this minute, and how it feeds, it's feeding into a narrative that's been going on since they shot Kennedy. Yuri Bezmenov. And another guy you might want to check out is J.R. Nyquist. Jeff Nyquist.
Is
So
Yuri's... Oh, sorry.
Yuri
Is he the guy...
Yuri,
am I echoing?
Yuri
Yeah.
Bez Menov. Bezmenov.
Is he the guy who did that interview back in the 80s?
Yes.
Got glasses on, a kind of skinny guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the guy who said to the KGB, "I got a shotgun too" on CBC, and then they promptly, you know.
It was not. Yeah. I mean, this is an
stand up to
agenda.
the bullies, like it's like high school. You stand up to the bullies. They have to back down because they cannot stand up to you. That's why they're bullies.
Yeah.
So why are guys in gangs? Because they have to be in a fucking gang.
I was just going to say that.
I ran nightclubs and bars in Victoria and Vancouver by myself, standing at the door, taking on Vietnamese, Hells Angels, you name it, you know, all comers. And I only weighed like 140 pounds.
It's an energy thing, though, isn't it? I mean,
well, it's not the size of the dog in the fight; it's the size of the fight in the dog. And what my sensei taught me was, if you can survive the first strike, you can win the fight.
Or stand sideways.
And that's a lot where we're at right now. Like
exactly. I mean, men don't stand up anymore. There's no line. You know, back in the day, it was like, there's the line. You step over that and you are going to get a fist in the face. Okay. And that would empower men, but it would also let other people know, don't step over that line. And they wouldn't, you know, but now we just let people jump over the line and encroach on our freedoms and get into our lives, and they've got no right, they've got no place at all being there. And so I think men just need to draw the line again. This is the line. I mean, first of all, we're going to have to push back a bit because they've infiltrated, you know, there's no line. Men aren't standing up and saying, no, if you come any further, I am going to hit you. That's what's missing, is this masculinity. And I'm not saying that we should be violent, we shouldn't, but if you draw a line and someone chooses to jump in, that's their decision, not yours. You're allowed to defend your line. So I think that's one big thing that's gone.
What Sensei taught me was it's better to be a gardener in a warrior in a gardener. A warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. And
advice.
Like the Sundance thing. What is the rite of passage from boy to man that makes him stand up and draw that line and says, hey, I'm not going to take this shit any longer? Yeah,
we've lost our ceremony. There's no coming of age ceremonies for
like the haka,
anywhere.
Like the Australians, when we go play rugby or cricket against the Australians and the New Zealanders, they do the haka first.
Kiwis,
The haka unites them all in a resonance and a vibration that says, I ain't going to rip your head off, and then we're going to have a beer afterwards.
But yeah, it's the in Australia, coming of age is basically you turn 18 and you get all your friends and you get as drunk as you can. And that's it. That's the coming of age ceremony. So, you know, it's like I think I heard you mention before
about to take the man and throw him out into the outback, and you got home. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, in Africa, they used to paint the boys white and throw them in the bush and say, you can't come back till all the paint's worn off. You got to, survive. You got to look after yourself. And when you do that, people have to go inside and they have to, work things out. When you're given answers and everything's easy, it's not a good path to take. What's that saying? Good times, bad times raise men, good times raise tyrants, basically. If you're given everything and you don't have to stand for anything, well, you'll stand for nothing, right? And just take what you can.
The first thing I noticed when I came out here to Alberta 5 years ago is it has been too easy for too long.
Yeah, I agree. Totally.
And
totally.
And the guys are not.
Well, and I think it's also interesting too that it seems like in our society, and this is probably a global thing, that there's more artificial power than there is real power. And the understanding and interpretation of what power is has become very distorted.
Mm.
Have you read Hawkins' Power versus Force?
I haven't done that one.
So Gandhi was power because it was internal power, and the British Empire was force.
Oh yeah. Now I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So it's Geronimo, the last of the Comanche. I can't remember his name. That was his was power. Because they had to use the whole power of the nation to suppress him. And now that spirit is rising.
Yeah, I think at some point in time people.
Yeah, now that spirit is rising back up.
I think at some point in time society started equating power with force, as opposed to silence or wisdom or something of that nature, or creative expression.
Yeah, I mean, that's what men have been taught, right? Rambo, Arnold Schwarzenegger, all this kind of stuff. Be a big, tough man, go live in the gym, kill some people. That'll make you a man. I mean, that's pretty much what we were given. That's what I was given for role models as growing up. And that's these people are not men. They're devoid of so much. They got one, they might be able to go and kill someone. Well, great. That's not very manly. What can you build? What can you defend?
And it's also it's about being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Even though the term has been subverted in the shrine, it's the motto is no man stands so tall as when he stoops to help a child in need.
Exactly.
Those words mean something, even though they've been subverted. But that's a real man. Hey, you're willing to put yourself in the line of fire for a child. Sacrifice. What are we afraid of? We're so afraid of being uncomfortable. I like my nice soft bed, but we're so afraid of being uncomfortable now, and making uncomfortable decisions and being in uncomfortable places. And what is the purpose of the Agora?
I'm
The
happy
purpose
you've
of
asked
the
that
Agora was
question.
to be a marketplace and to train men to be warriors. That
Well,
was the Agora.
I would say
Well,
it
the
is.
Spartan Agora, maybe the Athenian Agora, but
The main thing of our Agora is to elect to govern yourself. We've had that on our cover since the beginning. So basically is to find your own power and to direct yourself. Don't do any harm, but other than that, figure out what you need to do in your life. I would think is the best direction. And what we've looked to do since Russ asked for the last 12 years is to kind of share information that allows people to gather that for themselves, whether it's seeing how to eat better or what's going on inside them spiritually, if you like, what's going on outside them with their government. I met Iam and I started chatting with him because his articles, from what I've seen, were deeper in understanding what's going on spiritually behind the scenes in your own energetic systems. And with Cambell, I approached Cambell because I loved what he was sharing about alternative history originally years ago, which showed me that everything I thought was the way things are is not necessarily true. Because if you don't know your history, or you think you have an alternative history, like you said, then you really don't have a good base or a firm understanding of where you're standing, like where you came from. Like I had no history in my life growing up in Canada and being told the bullshit about their political system and how they got to where they are, which was all nonsense. And I'm sure everyone probably has a similar story. So perhaps one of the ways, as I'm looking at 3 other men right now, is to figure out your own personal history and, to do some research and to see what that means for you and where you would like to go from there, to teach yourself, become a sun dancer. I mean, I don't think any of us here started off when we were 6 years old saying, hey, this is what I want to do when I grow up. I want to, help other men become men. I don't know about you fellows, but that wasn't my understanding. I was thinking, sports guy, astronaut, the usual, cowboy and Indian, climb a mountain.
I think it's something deeper. It's more about helping people achieve personal freedom. I've never been about, it's about helping you reach your maximum human potential and helping you to be personally free, like to reach your maximum potential. What are we suffering from now is we're suffering for a suppression of potential.
Mm. Yeah. We're being told what to think instead of how to think.
Well, gentlemen, I'm going to bring one more fellow on. I don't know how it's going to work with 5 of us, just so you know, but Eddie Cornell, I'm going to invite him on. He's ex-military, 20 years in the military in Canada. He was an OPP, an Ontario Provincial Police fellow as well, working in the background auxiliary for a little while. And, now he's a freedom fighter in his own way. And, so he might have a bit more to add to this conversation about going through, your own rite of passage and what he's done and where it brought him. So you guys, please keep chatting, but I'm going to invite him on. And just wanted to let you know there might be a 5th joining us.
Cool. No worries.
So I've got my cricket helmet and cricket bat just in the background there for reference. Whereabouts in Australia are you?
Me? I'm in Perth, so I'm on the west coast. So not much happening here. It's not like Victoria or Sydney. So it's kind of annoying. I kind of wish more was happening so I could get out there and start making a bit of noise. I actually want to go and get arrested so that then I can say, well, prove you've isolated it. But
it's good. Hey, well, maybe this becomes a rite of passage for a whole bunch of guys, 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
Let me invite Eddie to the talk now. Hold on a second, Russ. Let me invite Eddie to the talk. Everyone, this is Eddie Cornell. I met him a few weeks ago through Freedom Rising, which is a group of organizations getting together in Canada that started off fighting the vaccine, so to speak, and are looking to help people gather their own ability to share politically and non-politically what they need to do and, fight for their rights, so to speak. Eddie, welcome to our discussion. You have to unmute yourself. You came unmuted.
He's doing me.
Sorry about that. Hi, everybody. As Lorenzo said, I'm Eddie Cornell. It's nice to meet everybody. Nice to see you having a good roundtable discussion here. I don't know if there's any questions that any of you might have, but I think we're all going through the same thing, and I don't think I've got to point out what the problems are to any one of you. The lack of people standing up is really the big problem, and when you do stand up, how many people want to take you down, and the hard part is keeping going and keep standing up. They knock you over, you get up and you do it again.
We have a saying at our rugby club: they can get me down, but they can't keep me down.
That's it.
How do we get rid of the Dominion voting machines?
Where are you?
Edmonton, Alberta.
I'm not certain if we've got the Dominion voting machines.
Today and said they're going to bring them for the election.
I've heard that, but I haven't seen anything confirmed that they're actually going to be using that. Actually, in my area, I'm going to go be one of the poll watchers at the end of the night and verify the count for the ridings in my area. And we're sending groups out to all of the polls in the area to make sure the count that actually goes out the door is what they're going to report in the media. So, maybe in your area you could organize something like that as well. They can't prevent you from doing that.
Right. That's, I think, the most critical thing that we can, we're talking about how to be a man today. Well, civics is being a big part of being a man. Right. What's going on in your community.
Yeah, they don't like strong men. They don't like men that stand up for the most part. The ladies do. They like strong men. They don't like they don't like men that really are women dressed in men's clothes. That's not really how it's supposed to be. So, you know, I just find, you know, when you stand up, it gives other people encouragement to stand up and be a strong man as well. And you don't have to be a big guy, which I'm not. You know, you don't have to be an intimidating fact, but confidence is everything. You know, if you display confidence in everything that you do, people don't really want to mess with you. You know, they leave you alone. And I don't mean cocky. I just mean confident. And you know,
It's not the
you'll.
size of the dog in the fight; it's the size of the fight in the dog.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, I very seldom anymore get challenged in all the places I go. I tend to go to all the same places now, you know, because it's all mask. I don't wear a mask anywhere, and yeah, nobody challenges me anymore. I just, you know, I don't know if it's. I was saying to Lorenzo the other day, if it's the look that you put on your face. I don't know.
Have you got blue eyes?
I do.
Yeah, so it's those steely blue eyes. They lock on and just people melt in front of you. Ah!
Yeah, maybe, maybe.
I don't know, guy. He's gonna melt us.
Yeah.
I found the same thing, you know, when
But
I'm walking around.
it is true because again, I've been in a lot of situations where I've had to face guys 3-4 times my size, maybe 4 or 5 of them, and it was just simply I just stood up.
Yeah.
I hear a
And
bit
you
of
know,
a ringing.
That's where we're at today.
I hear a bit of a
We're
ringing in the
standing up.
background. Is there a ringing coming from any of your
let me see.
systems?
I'll mute my mic and see if it's coming from me.
Okay.
Oh, hello.
Yes, it's coming from you, Eddie. There's a ringing in the background. You're still muted though right now. Okay. Gonna come back. We have an interesting
Right, tell me about
roundtable
yourselves.
of people here now. Like I said, Perth, Australia. I guess you're in Detroit there. I am. You're in Edmonton over there. I'm in Japan in Osaka. And Eddie, I believe, is on the East Coast in Canada. So what I find very interesting in the modern day, in the modern world, is that if you decide to stand up and you want to be a strong person, you end up finding the people you're supposed to be interacting with just by being yourself, right? Because, you know, I reached out to all of these people originally. I guess Russ reached out to me a long time ago. But, you know, overall, you know, I reached out to Eddie, I reached out to Iam, and I reached out to Cambell. And here we are sitting here. You know, I wish I could be in the room with all you guys, to be perfectly honest, you know, to kind of, you know, share the feelings that, you know, you get from seeing someone eye to eye and how that's going to go. But, you know, Cambell.
I think that's a measure of the global reach you've achieved there, Lorenzo, with very little resources, you know, how far we got. And I go into places now and it's like, hey, you know what? When the print comes back, these guys are ready for print.
Well, whether we print again.
Yeah, I tend to agree with what Eddie was talking about, when he's speaking about not really being concerned about how people would react or respond to the way that he was living his life. And I believe that, you know, when we're empowering ourselves and we're inspiring ourselves in our path, that ultimately reflects positively for other people, and then other people get that idea or see the results of that way of being, and it creates some sort of like a momentum, you know, which was what I was kind of hoping to see starting back in March 2020 when everybody went locked down, shut down, whatever you want to call it. And I was hoping that that would give an opportunity for people to go within and get aligned with like that, or the soul or the spirit or whatever. I recently, maybe about less than a month ago, realized that the reality was very different from what my hope was about a year ago.
Disengaged from nature.
Seeing
Everyone was
how
disengaged from nature and stuck in a little cubicle with a fucking TV and their computer feeding them bullshit
that's a
that raised
good
the
point
quarter
to us, because honestly, like the connection with nature is pivotal to be able to remember who we are and experience life, you know.
You're still muted, Eddie. Oh,
I don't know what happened. I lost my connection for a second. I apologize.
It's okay. The ringing came back.
We were talking about.
Is it ringing back?
A little bit.
Okay. I don't know how I can correct that. I think I've got my air conditioning going in the background. That's probably what it is.
Could be. either
We were
way,
talking about how you were not concerned about how people reacted and responded to the way that you were being in your lifestyle in light of what's going on in the world, and how that was probably good for people to be empowered and inspired and see the possibility of being able to do something similar for themselves and be more themselves instead of echo or reflection of the world.
Yeah, it's really true. I find, and you're probably the same way when you go out. I'm the only person in the store mask free. Probably half of them wish they were me, and the other half look at me like I'm lower than what the dog left outside on the sidewalk. And I don't really care. But I tell people, you can see people fidget with their mask, and I'll say to people in line, I'll say, "Why don't you take that thing off your face?" And they'll look at me like, "Yeah, I'm thinking about it." Well, don't think, do it.
Just before the spring breakup here in Edmonton, I was coming back from the store, and there was an old guy struggling to get back to home, and he's holding on to a light post. And I asked him if he needed any help, and he's got this stupid damn mask on. We get down to his house. I mean, it's like, it's still -10 here, but, I said, just take the mask off so you can breathe. What are you afraid of? What are we afraid of? You're afraid of living or dying? It's
just so much.
The hardest thing for me is to watch what they're doing to the kids. What they're doing to the kids, that is the hardest thing of all.
But that's what's also started to really change people. It's protect the kids, and now people really are starting to go, right, this is really a problem. But I mean, back in March last year, it was just so disappointing. All this stuff, no one stood up. All this stuff came out. I'm there like bloody, posting stuff like mad, and all the men, where were they? Not one person stood up and said, "This is crap. Hang on, let's check into this. You can't do this." What? Nothing. Everyone's just like going along, acquiescing with the TV, with all the hive mind and all this kind of stuff. And in the end, it's like you were talking about, Ed. People are just too scared to stand out on their own and going, "This is what I stand for. I don't really care if anyone's standing with me,
they've been too
but this is
comfortable
what I
for too
stand
long,
for."
and they're afraid to be uncomfortable in any aspect, whether it's physical or mental. It's really, whoever we are today, standing here doing this, we have to stay at it. And if it's only us, then we have to support each other. We have to be independent, mutually supporting, because they have.
Yeah, I agree with Cambell and what he was saying earlier in regards to the disappointment, and that's something that I've been present to over the last month. And for the most part, when I started to observe and see the trends in the way that the world was going, it was a disappointment to see that, people in my life, and I was speaking with Lorenzo about this earlier, people in my life that are intelligent, like people that are socially aware, or so I thought, or people that are even spiritually minded to some degree, they totally bought in to it all. And I just thought to myself, well, how can you be or consider yourself intelligent or aware, but buy into something that is so seemingly manipulatable, a manipulation, and so it's interesting to see how intelligence or even instinct isn't enough to be able to bring yourself out of the duality of what's going on.
Oh, well, man only reacts in a crisis. And it hasn't reached the crisis stage yet.
I'm not so sure about that, but
Yeah.
Well, I'm being facetious.
It's a different kind of war, though, isn't it? It's not physical. Like, people don't know where the enemy is and who to attack and what's going on, and it's a psychological war. We haven't really been in this before, so
this brings me back to Yuri Bezmenov and J.R. Nyquist when they talk about white terror, pink terror, red terror in the Fabian rollout. So right now we're in pink terror, right? They don't care whether the things work or not. They don't care whether the buses work. They don't care whether the trains work. They don't care or anybody's making any money. They don't care. The communists don't care. They do not care. This is part of their rollout.
Yeah.
Right? Yuri Bezmenov says in his last lecture, when the time comes in America, there will be no place to run, and there will be no one who will take you. Where are we at? I'm in downtown Edmonton. I'm surrounded by fucking rainbow flags. I'm the only Canadian flag in the neighborhood. That means I'm in enemy territory.
Did you want to say something, Lorenzo?
Hey?
Pardon me?
Yeah. Did you want to say something? Because
No,
it says
it's just,
something on the
you know,
screen that you wanted to say something.
Yeah. You know, it's you know, enemy territory. I think we need to look at it in a whole new way. You know, maybe it's the fifth column since we're talking about, you know, not Mind Su, but Lao Tzu. You know, the enemy that sneaks in behind the curtain, so to speak. You know, the enemy that sneaks in. I talked with Iam about this a little bit earlier, but the enemy that's sneaking in behind your eyes. You know, I think whether you want to call it propaganda or brainwashing, or if you want to call it Waitiko, if you're looking at the background from a Native American or Toltec perspective. But you know, I find that most men, like Eddie, who's gone to battle himself, and you know, others of us that have gone to battle in different ways. You know, it's why I was attracted to talking with Eddie. He's literally been at war. He's been in that situation. You know, for me, I thought it was important for people to see someone who's been in the army and a police officer who actually is helping, right? You know, maybe the original concept for why a lot of men joined these organizations was to stand up, you know, for the rights of their family, friends, and community, and the people around them, their country, etc. And maybe what's being lost is seeing where the true enemy lays, you know, where it is, you know, because if you don't know your enemy, you've already lost the war, obviously, right? If you don't know, you know, the capabilities of who you're fighting, then you've already lost the war. And you know, I talked with Iam a bit about this too. I'm really strongly of the point that maybe even everything that's going on is a distraction towards something that's sneaking in behind the scenes that does seem to be taking over our men and our women. You know, I walk down the street, you know, and I'm looking at everyone here, and everyone here is of an age of a 50 age, you know, plus or minus, you know, more or less, I'm guessing. I don't know everyone's age, but I'm going to say that, you know, 50 or I've never asked Cambell how old he is. I've always thought that was rude, although it's the first thing people ask you in Japan. In Japan, for some reason, you know, I had to get over that living here over the last 10 years. How old are you? I go, man, in North America, they don't ask you that. But anyways, so I think why I've invited these separate gentlemen on to chat with us and more besides is to get a grip and to kind of look at what's really going on as far as what we are facing as our real so-called opponents.
I think you're right, Lorenzo. The most dangerous enemy is the one behind the eyes by far. In the perceptions that we adopt, ultimately, that really impacts our experience and sets us in a divisive way with ourselves and other people.
Definitely. Yeah, the perspective is a big thing. This is the program, right? We're looking at the world, and they put this program over us, and that changes our perspective, which changes how we see the world, and that, of course, changes what the world is, right? Because we're all the creators with our thoughts. So all they do is change what we're thinking, and that changes the world. Because these, whatever they are, you know, those who wish to rule us, they can't create anything. They're just using us. So, I mean, in the end, as soon as everyone just says no, they're powerless. But of course, we have to get you know, there's a few more people we need to get on side to say no, because they all, you know, it's like, you know, as we mentioned before, it's easier to go along with the crowd. It's easy. It's comfortable. You don't have to get uncomfortable. You don't have to stand up. You don't have to deal with the abuse and all this kind of stuff. It's easy. But, you know, it's easy now. It's not going to be easy in a few years when these people find themselves in a communist, you know, dystopia. But yeah, we have the power, guys. It's just why it's so frustrating. We just need to say no. Everyone's just acquiescing, and as soon as everyone says no, then it all ends. It just stops. And I guess what we're missing is the men to take charge and say, right, no, there's a line, no. You know, there's no safeguard left anymore. And we've got, you know, women and you know, men with rainbow flags trying to tell us what to do and how to live. I mean, it's yeah. There's some weird stuff going on.
Eddie, do you in your experience, do you see the psychological elements to what's happening right now in the world, specifically with perception, the virus, vaccination, and all of the social programming going on?
Yeah, you're right. That's huge at the moment. The amount of programming that they're putting out, and it's the old conquer and divide. That's they're masters at it. They've had decades and decades to perfect the playbook. We're new at this, so we're not privy to the playbook. We have to figure out as we go along and kind of adjust our plan along the way, because they're coming at us right now so fast and furious from every direction. It's hard to make sense of what to do next. Well, you're right. The biggest thing is to say, no, I'm not going along with this. And, enough people are out there that are saying no. But the problem is, the way for people to communicate with each other, because as you know, anything contrary to the party line, they take it off of any of your social media sites and so on. So basically what's happening is people are forming groups, and the groups are contacting other groups, and they're forming networks, and not all communication is done online. I see it here all over the area that I'm in, where people are connecting with other groups that have a plan, that have prepared things, that they've looked at what's the worst case scenario, where are we now, and how long do you think it's going to take if it gets to that. So people are scared. They're looking for leaders. They're looking for direction. And, the worst thing that we can do is sort of perpetrate and really, bring that fear forward to them. We need to find ways to, take the fear away from the people that are afraid of what's happening. We're the guys, the people. Yeah, there you go. We still use paper. That's right. So, we're the guys that they're going to look to, and we need to be confident and be on our game and really know what we're talking about, because we don't want them to follow something just because we say so. We want to have good information and good direction for people to follow. So, I'm sure that all of you have been through, an awful lot over the 18 months, since this has been going on, and probably in some cases way back further than that. We've you don't want to waste time on things that you can't change. So you want to put your efforts into things that you can do. And, the network the networking end of things is really good, because everybody's got a specialty. So when you find, the people that you work with, this one can do, A, this one can do B, and so on. It's a very effective fighting force when you have everybody that has different talents come together. And you can get an awful lot accomplished. People think, oh, well, I'm just one guy. There's nothing I can do. You want to bet one guy could do a lot. And as a group, we're unstoppable. And we just have to know it.
Are you aware of Jeffrey Prather's network?
No.
Check out jeffreyprather.com. And he's put together networks for Team Canada, Team USA, Team Global. He's a former DEA whistleblower.
Okay.
Military guy, very solid information. And in Alberta here, I have a client. He's set up the Alberta Patriots Network. I think it's AlbertaPatriotsNetwork.com.
How's his last name spelled? Is it Prathers?
Prather, yeah, Jeffrey Prather.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Yeah, Jeffrey has got very good intelligence. He's a military martial arts guy, ninjutsu. He's got a pretty good credentials. Yeah.
Good. I'll definitely check it out. Thanks. Thanks for the heads up.
Yeah. The issue I think we're all sort of struggling with is, how do you stand up and face this stuff when you're on your own?
I think you have no choice, personally. Because everyone's on. You just do. I agree.
That's
just stand up and What are they going to do to you?
There's a great little motto I was taught, which was by Thomas Watson. Subject your ideas to the crucible of controversy. Fear less the stigma of crackpot than the label of conformist. And on things that seem important to you, stand up and be counted, even at the cost of your own life.
I'd agree with that.
Well, there you go. You just answered and asked your own question there, Russ.
That's right.
I know, I'm a logical paradox.
No, you just have to do it.
They gave me a baseball cap that said the gendarme du pyrotechnique, which is the firemen who light fires.
You know what I just tell people, I said this to Lorenzo the other night, is that I'm not taking any applications for friends right now. So, if they don't want to be my friend, that's fine. If they want to get in my face, that's fine too. I'm not backing down. So you better come with your A game when you come into my face and into my space, because it's not going to be me that backs down.
And that's what the young men need to hear, and that's what they need to see, and that's what somehow we've got to get the young men to take these. I got a guy who's 21 years old working with me right now, and I said, I think this war is going to be old men fighting old men.
Well, I got that covered.
Yeah, I'm 64, so it's like, you know what, you guys stand back, and this is our one, because it's our responsibility. We allowed this to happen.
You're right.
And I agree with what I was saying in regards to standing up in the moments of adversity and potential conflict. I mean, recently I was having a conversation with my mom, and she and her husband, my stepfather, decided to do the vaccination, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, she had asked me, or she was encouraging me to do it and wanting me to do it. And, I have no intention of doing it. I know enough about it that I don't want to choose to do that. And so at some point in time, I started to realize that she was just basically mimicking what she was hearing on the news. And then I realized, okay, so I asked her, I said, do you really want to know why there are so many people in this world that don't want to do this? If you want to, and if you're willing to listen, then I'll be willing to have that conversation. But if you just want to if you just want to wait to respond and debate what I'm saying or try and deny or dismiss it, then I'm probably not interested in having a conversation with you. And eventually she came around to actually listening. But, that's part of the whole thing with what I was asking you, Eddie, about the psychological impacts of all of this, and what you were alluding to, Cambell, as well, how it is psychological warfare in many ways, because people have been conditioned and programmed to seeing it from one perspective and not being able to step outside of that limited viewpoint to understand that there's more than, what people are being told about what's happening, whether it's science or the medical industry or whatever, whatever domain that's involved. And it was promising when I was talking with her that she actually started to develop listening. But like what Cambell was saying earlier about disappointment, it soon faded. There was no capacity, or there was no longevity for that listening, or that style of listening, or that quality of listening to be able to have a connection.
It's cognitive dissonance at a massive scale, and they've turned science and medicine into religion and a belief.
So
yeah,
definitely.
So once those people are caught in those belief systems, I mean, they could stack the bodies like cordwood in front of them.
Well, everything's become political. Every medicine, just big pharma. It's all politicized, and it's not about getting to the root and the real information. It's about doing, the political answer or the political correctness for whatever it is they're trying to push onto the public. And it's very difficult to cut through that. People are influenced so greatly by their evening news, and, they've trusted that for decades. And, why would they suspect that their news would lie to them? It's quite a shock when they find out that it does. And
one of my favorite songs right now, I've got a playlist of protest songs. One of my favorites right now is Morrissey's "Stayed in Bed," and the catch line is, "You got to stop watching the news because the news conspires to frighten you." to make you feel scared and alone, to make you feel that your mind is.
Yeah, or like what Eddie was talking about, Bob Marley's "Get Up, Stand Up" would be pretty relevant right now.
Eric Clapton just released a song yesterday that's probably going to go viral. That's, I mean, his hands were paralyzed after his second line vaccination. He's still having problems.
Yep.
Yeah, didn't he do that with Van Morrison?
Van Morrison.
No, Van Morrison worked on a
Van
protest
Morrison.
song
He
with
did song with
Clapton.
Van Morrison last year.
Yeah.
There's not many of them. I mean, even Gene Simmons and Kiss have come out. You know, if you're going to come to our tough concert, you got to have the vax.
Dee Snider from Twisted Sister.
Twisted Sister. We're not going to take it. Oh, hang on. Yeah, we will now.
We're gonna have to take it. We're gonna have to take it.
And these are the men who were put up.
That's like if Alice Cooper came out and said, "I'm going to take the vaccine," I would fucking blow my brains out tomorrow.
Oh God, he better not. But this is the thing: where these are supposed to be the tough, anti-disestablishmentarianism kind of guys, right? Yeah, we're the rock guys. Yeah, we're so rebellious. Yeah, right.
Here's
toe the line.
How much stock do you want, and how much do your mom need? And on behalf of your client, how much more do you want?
How much is that soul of yours? How much do we pay for it? It's pathetic, and it's coming out. All these bands, all the the actors, none of them have stood up. All these people put up in front of us to be the manly men. I mean, they have just shown themselves to be pathetic little rainbow children lately. I mean, it's just disgraceful. And so, anyone who thinks that these people are anything to do with masculinity really needs to get a head check, because, men don't run along and follow and just do what they're told. They don't sit there and go, "Mummy and Daddy, what should I do now? Oh, I should put that in my arm. Should I? Okay, thanks, Mummy and Daddy." That's a child. That's not a man. That's a child.
What is the catch line? What is the catch line? What is the catch line of the new Agora?
Elect to govern yourself. It's always been there.
Govern yourself.
Elect to govern yourself. That's what I found very early on at a young age, watching politicians always lying, watching so-called religious leaders always being duplicitous, watching so-called business people always, let's just say, being less than honest to make a buck. As we say, it took me a long time to come to a place now where I see that all you can really trust is your own heart. And Russ has had some good examples with some catchphrases, but what I feel we're all coming down to right now is, figure out for yourself what you need to do. We're going to take this back, let's say, this conversation with how to be a man, how to stand up for yourself. And if you're an army of one, if we'll point at Eddie, who cares, right? If you're alone, with 10,000 people in rainbow underwear, dancing around you, who cares, right? If you're the only man standing, I think really what's being missed in some ways is there is a power that supports you no matter what choices you make in life. I'm going to go back to a little bit of the spiritual thing. I know I am knows what I'm talking about. I think, and there's a power that if not, I don't even want to say believe, but if you choose something 100%, whatever it is, it will support you in that choice. You may not know how it's going to. You may not know the challenges that you're going to face at the time. You may not know you're putting your life on the line, although, you get up and you go to the bus in the morning, you're putting your life on the line. But whatever, I think there's something I can share with men in this conversation would be really to figure out what a real man would trust themselves, period. Not care about anything to the right or to the left or to the up or to the down, what mommy said, what daddy said, how much money's in their pocket, what their girlfriends think about them, what their buddies think about them. I think what Eddie was sharing, and I've noticed that too, is if you walk around with that look in your eye, like, yeah, this is my truth, and that's that, you get left alone. You really do. Like, I've gone through airports with that look. I've gone through, I've stared down bigger people than myself with that look. I've done just about everything with that look, and it's not so much that you're tough, although you are. I think you're just being tough with your own choices, right? Your own intent and what you've decided is you. And the world really isn't going to get in the way of that, other than to maybe challenge you if you're not 100% there. When you're 100% there, I think you get left alone. That's my feeling.
Yeah, it's all a test. Are you serious? And there's this whole thing of belief. I mean, you can. So many people think that they believe something, but they're not actually embodying it. It's like this whole, sort of facade. I'm tough, or I'm this, or I'm that, but that they're not it's all based on the external, on how other people view them rather than how they view themselves. And that's where it comes down to. If you view yourselves as, I'm all powerful, I'm going to walk down here, no one's going to get in my face. And if they do, they're going to fall really quickly. You'll just walk straight through. You know, and it's not about, I'm tough, I'm going to, you know, smash the dudes. It's just like, no one's going to get in my face. I'm just going through here. This is me. It's got nothing to do with anyone else, just me. This is what's happening. And when you believe like that, the universe has got your back. The only thing that we don't, you know, get to choose is a time frame and when necessarily what we might have to go through. But in the end, if you, with that belief, you'll come out the other side. I mean, look at all the stories. I mean, they're replete with stories like this. It's all we get, you know. Trust yourself, believe in yourself, wave the warrior, and you'll be fine. And this is what people are lacking is belief in themselves. They don't know who they are. And this comes down to we don't know where we came from. We don't know our history. You know, we're just sort of floating out in space. So, you know, what choice do we have but to go inside and really just decide who we are and live through that?
Like Graham Hancock says, we're a species with amnesia.
Yeah, with amnesia, for sure. Definitely.
You know, hey, we're men here sitting trying to remind each other how to be men.
I mean, the society's gone, you know, like we don't know what are we defending? You know, they've split us up so much, and they've, you know, all this interaction with, you know, different cultures and things, and splitting things up and turning everyone grey, basically, right? You know, let's destroy all the culture and society and make everyone the same. Exactly. What are we defending? We don't know. We're sort of swimming out there. Where back in the day, if you had a village, right, and everyone you knew what you were defending. You know, now we don't have that. So
that's funny, because when we first started having problems after the Iraq War broke out, one of the old timers came to me at the cricket club and he said, "Russ, what the hell's going on? I don't understand." And I said, "We can't have a cohesive society we don't share common values."
Exactly.
We're not sharing common values anymore. It's okay to be a man. It's okay to be looking at girls. It's okay to have girls attracted to you. It's okay to want to be successful. You know, it's okay to want to share. I don't want to be.
You know, when Eddie was talking about being confident and walking your life or living your lifestyle in the midst of adversity and challenge, or, you know, masks or no masks or whatever, it reminded me of something that I wrote years ago. There was a terminology that I came up with called sphere of influence, and essentially it's connected with electromagnetic energetic emanation that we have that comes from our heart center, that's connected with our intuition in the universe, and so on and so forth, in the soul. And so I think there's something to that in what he was talking about, like being who you are without being concerned about how people react or respond to it. And it ultimately shifts things. It shifts your environment. It shifts you to the point where people start being not necessarily influenced, but maybe inspired to be able to step out of their own individual experience and see that there's something more than just following along with what's going on.
Yeah, that's going back to what Mr. Sussman taught me about when you come into this thing. You come in, you want to either be right and alone or wrong and in the crowd. So we're herd animals. Men lose their minds in herds, then regain their senses one by one.
And you got to be honest with yourself. I think you got to go in and you got to see where, if your life isn't working the way you like, I'm going to share this. You got to figure out why without pointing a finger. Right? That's why I've loved meeting you gentlemen. I've never seen almost any finger pointing coming from any of you, in that when something isn't working, the first person you point at is yourself. And that's so lacking.
That's the definition of a conservative over a liberal.
And
Russ,
let me finish before you say another quote, right? Because I think in some ways too many quotes, because I don't mean to be rude or anything like this here, but I think if you go inside, you figure out what's going on with yourself, you figure out why things aren't working, and the first person you ask is you how to get to that answer, and the last person you ask is you. how to get to that answer. Going to what I am said and what Eddie said, I think that's when you get
I
connected.
take responsibility for everything that goes around me, whether I can control it or not. That's the definition between a man and a boy. And that's the last word I'll say today.
And you have to not be so emotional, maybe if you get challenged a little bit in what you need to see and do and figure out for yourself, right? Because I think that's, I don't want to disparage anybody, but, really, you have to be able to take some criticism, let's say, in your life and see where that takes you, because that's how you grow up, right? That's how you feel what you need to do. I mean, I've been called an idiot more times than I can count, or a coward, or a fool, or a spoiled brat, or whatever, right? And I had my tantrums, but I grew out of them mostly.
It's just the thing. It's inside. It's like if someone comes up and challenges me, or like, you're not this, or my first reaction is, well, I'm just going to prove to you that you're wrong. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm just going to prove to you that you're wrong. And so many people just crumble. Oh my God, they hurt me. Oh my God, where's the cry corner? Oh, they said mean words to me. And I think that's what we just need to get over it, right? Grow a backbone and just, who gives a crap? The thing is, who are these people that are saying this stuff to you? Do you respect them? Do you want to be like them? I mean, people listen to people that they don't even want to be like. I mean, and I think it's just herd mentality. Herd mentality, just be like everyone else. Don't step outside. But that's what, clearly, name me a hero or someone who changed the world who was like everyone else. It's a ridiculous question. We know it's just ridiculous. But people seem to forget this. Everyone wants to be the hero, but no one wants to step out on their own and stand up for anything. So we just need to find some balls.
No, you're absolutely right. It's so liberating when you actually do stand up and not worry about what anybody thinks or says. I mean, it's the best feeling in the world. I mean, you feel powerful when, you stand up on your own. It's like, hey, I did it. And it gets easier every time you do it. The first time's always the hardest. My wife was deathly afraid to go out and, have any type of confrontation in the public. Now, she's a warrior. She's out there every day. She doesn't care what people think. So once you get over that, it's the best feeling. And what's happening now, I think, is for a lot of people, their survival instincts are starting to wake up and they don't really know what it is, but something's kicking in and they're having a conflict between what they see and hear to what their gut is telling them. I always tell them, follow your gut. Follow that sense that is telling you something inside. It's never going to lead you wrong. Lead you wrong. That's your survival instinct kicking in, and that's what everybody needs to experience. Because if you just follow what everyone else tells you to do, forget it. I think we all said or were told when we were kids, if all the other kids jumped off a bridge, you're going to jump off too. Well, it's true. You probably would, but I look for the guy, when you see the crowd going one way, I'm the guy going the other way.
Me too. Yeah, definitely. And I mean, where's the rebellious nature, That's what we're missing.
Lorenzo, I think that, what you were kind of talking to about the dynamic earlier, specifically with Russ, there's a flow to the conversation and there's a flow to a listening. And so I think that's what it sounded like you were talking about, was that there was a listening there, a mutual listening, which there has been quite a bit, where people share and then they listen and then it moves to a different direction, a different person, and so on and so forth. So I'm glad you mentioned what you did at that time, because it helped the flow of the conversation and it helped the energy of it as well. And it gave people the opportunity of being able to communicate, and express themselves.
Thank you, for sure. I mean, watching the energy, like there's a big challenge in I don't like to confront people. I've never been one for confronting. It's made me feel weird in some ways. I had to, grow a pair, so to speak, and realize that, in some ways, it's, how to put it, it seems to be the challenge going on in getting to the heart of what is the difference between your head and your heart. And I have seen too many people sprouting slogan after slogan after slogan about how to change things, how to do things. But one little challenge, and they get angry, or they run away, or they scream at you, and really, if you're feeling a pain, and I know I felt that emotional pain, but understanding, and you've written some articles on that, I think is understanding that emotional pain is just the world kind of telling you where you need to heal, right? You could say, like, you're a balloon trying to fill up with power, and if you've got a hole in there somewhere, whatever power the world puts in you is just going to go at that hole. Whether it's not good enough, or not strong enough, or nobody loves you, or nobody wants you, nobody cares for you. I mean, take your pick. We've all heard those questions, those things in our background a million times over. But I touched base with this earlier as well in our talk, even before we came on, is that if you're not taking responsibility for that crazy voice in your head and learning how to not act on the ones that are giving you negative ideas about your personal circumstances, whatever they happen to be for you, you've lost the game before it started. Because again, you're missing the enemy at the door, which is actually behind your eyes, which is actually what you need to realize in order to be a real man right now. I think is you really got to be prepared to, stand naked in the wind, let people point and laugh if they have to, and and take it, so to speak, and I've gone through all kinds of experiences to learn to do that over the years, But that's my little rant. Thank you, Ian, for what you said.
Well, and it seems like to that point, it seems to me like this was an opportunity for everybody to express themselves, from what their experience is. So I'm glad that you did mention that, because, it's not about mimicking, like what you were saying about what other people say. It's not about that at all. It's about sharing and expressing what's there for us and our experience, without getting sidetracked by other people's thoughts that may or may not be relevant in the moment.
Yeah, and being wrong can be really good. If you're never wrong, you never learn. Like, this is the problem. Yeah. Everyone wants to be right all the time. Well, you can be right all the time, but all you're going to end up knowing is one thing, that one thing that you have to be right about. We learn when we're wrong. People have to just get over themselves. It's just, people are so highly strung, and they're so like, oh, what will people think, and how popular am I? And in the end, all these people they worry about don't give a crap about them. Half of them don't even know they exist.
No.
I think it's really, and it comes back to, we don't know who we are, do we? We've really just got to go inside and work out who we are. What do we stand for? What do we want to stand for? What do we want to create? How do we want to be remembered? Do we want to be remembered as, oh, that guy, yeah, he worked for the company for 60 years and then he dropped dead of a heart attack. Oh, yeah, he was a good one. I mean, come on.
Nobody cares.
Well, anyway, gentlemen, I have to sign off to spend some time with my wife before I end up outside. So,
come on, be a man.
Anyway, it's been a pleasure talking with you all, and hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Definitely, yes. Thank you. Great to meet you. Yes.
Thanks so much for joining us.
All right. Thanks, Lorenzo.
Okay, I'll talk to you soon. So yeah, fellows, let's continue on. How to be real men, how to see where we need to go. It seems there's 3 men standing right now, so to speak, in this conversation. If there's anybody out there listening that wants to ask anybody a question, let me know in the chat. I'll be happy to bring you on. But I think here's what it comes down to really. It's like I've known Russ for a long time. I don't really want to talk to someone off thing, but you really have to take control of your emotional body. Like, can I ask you a question, Eddie, if I may? Now that you're here, being in the Army, having gone through that training, obviously being faced, life and death situations, fears, being a police auxiliary, carrying a gun, probably, I'm guessing, through that, and, having literally your life being faced with your life, we'll say. I'm sure you've had some situations. How did you work at getting over those fears, standing up, like literally having a real tyrant in your face instead of just someone saying, you're too short, you're too fat, you'll never make anything of yourself. Like, you've had a real tyrant or 10. Yes. And what did you do
Well, everybody's going to experience fear whenever, a situation like you spoke of comes to be, but you can harness fear. You can work within and use that fear and use it in a positive way versus a negative way. There's two things you can do to react from fear. You can run and hide, or you can run towards the danger, and that's something that, um, people really don't know how to quantify that. Fear is something that is, it's a subconscious sort of emotion that takes place, and it'll make you do things that you wouldn't normally think of doing, and either fighting or running. You've got to find a way to turn it from running to fighting, and that's a real difficult thing to do. But no matter what situation you're in, you always experience fear, but don't let it cripple you, because it can. Well, we all know that.
It's good advice. Very, very good. I mean, I figure you're going to be dead anyways. Everyone's going to the same place. I think you mentioned this in the chat a little bit, Eddie. Like, the finish line in some ways, whether it's 80, 90, or 12, is kind of the same for everyone. So, and I don't know about you guys. I've never seen anybody with pockets full of money being buried that they could do anything with it at the end of it, or what have you. So,
Like,
what do you?
Yeah, you're right. And what do you say to your kids or your grandkids? When they're grown, and they're asking you, Dad or Grandpa, what did you do when this all happened? Do you want to be the guy that says, hey, I sat there watching Netflix and got 30 pounds heavier? Or do you want to say, hey, I was out there and I was kicking some butt and I was doing this, that, and the other thing, and this is why we're where we are now, is because myself and other people like me, we all stood up.
100%. I agree with you. It's like I feel like we're becoming fast friends, even though I just met you like literally a few days ago in our chat, and we talked, in Cambell too. Like, we're all in different parts of the world, but in some ways we're all like, putting our butts on the line, not looking for a paycheck to do this, because no, I don't think anyone's getting rich, speaking the truth.
No, no, that's for sure.
Everyone's laughing, going, yeah. But I've never once seen Cambell point a finger and blame anybody for anything. In the short time I've talked with you, Eddie, I've never once seen you say it's anyone's fault for anything. And to me, that's worth more than gold, to be able to, and that's what men need to see. I think, we can take it back to how to be a man. That's what people need to see. That's what young fellows need to see perhaps these days, is there are people out there that are saying, fuck you, so to speak, to whatever, I mean, I'm watching the chat and people are going, my kid has to go to school with a mask. And I, said, well, don't send him to school. And then they give you 4 reasons why they have to go to school. Okay, what are you going to do, right? Or what do you do if someone goes to get a vaccine and you say, well, these are the reasons. And they go, well, excuse, they got a vaccine. You got to go, all right, right? But, if you take away, like, I think if a parent doesn't want their kid to wear a mask and their school is mandating masks, well, they either go blow up the school, which isn't what I would do, or they figure out an alternative solution for their children to get an education, which I know many people are doing.
That's true. One of the groups I work with in my area, there's, I think, now 15 children. They're not going back to school in the public school system. They formed a school for the 15 children. They have 3 different groups: the older, the mids, and the junior kids, and they're homeschooling. And there's actually some teachers involved that are no longer teachers, and it's going to be a great experience. There's a great facility, and I think the kids are going to get a far better education. I know myself and others, we're going to be in there at different times teaching some survival skills and some map reading and navigation skills, and how to start fires, and the basics that you'd learn in maybe Cubs or Scouts, now that that's gone. And these are things kids are, as well as the academics, they're going to learn this stuff, and they're not going to get this in their normal public school. So I'm looking forward to seeing that come together. It should be starting about next week, I think, with that group. Very exciting.
And you don't know what else they're teaching your kids in school. I mean, look at what's coming out with all these teachers that are, teaching salute the rainbow flag and listen to Mr. Fat Old Man in a wig here.
Well, this is the one thing, that you're right. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but in our school system, my friend that is setting up this school, she's just about to complete her PhD, and her friend's kid came home with a book teaching you, I think it was grade 1, how to masturbate. What?
And I mean, see, this is evilness. I mean, this is what people. I mean,
those
to
kind of
me,
teachers,
anyone who does that needs to be locked up and the key thrown away, if not hung in a public space, because that's pedophilia. Why is this acceptable? Why aren't these people being, completely destroyed when they even suggest things like this? I mean, we all know the answer is because the whole system is evil, and they're like, yeah, we like that too. But why are parents sending their kids to school and then complaining about it?
I would recommend anybody get their kids out of school now. Do your homeschool, find someone.
Yeah. My kids are older, but if they're at school age, there's no way they'd be going to school. And I'm in Australia. If it was America, there's no way. No. But all this mask mandate, people going down to school saying, don't make our kids wear masks. Guys, go home and have a look in the bloody mirror. You're the one that is making your kid wear a mask, not the school board. Grow a pair. Get your kid out, or go and sit next to your kid in class all day and make sure they don't wear a bloody mask. Do something, but don't sit there and expect other people to live your life, make your decisions and make things better for you, because they won't. They will lie to you and they will make it better for them. Wake up.
They will. And, I would want my kids to learn my values, not some leftist values. That's not what I want to teach my kids. So I'm going to get them as far away from that as possible, because that's what it is. Our schools have been hijacked by a bunch of leftists, and that ideology doesn't compete with what, my belief system is.
It doesn't. Clearly, look at the the people that they're producing. All these people with all these letters behind their names who have got no value at all to give. It's just, yeah. I mean, when you think about it, it's just amazing how we've gone this far in 2 years. Like, literally, we've got drag queens reading stories to kindergarten kids.
Yeah, isn't that great?
What the hell?
I think it comes down to maybe, I heard originally when they started schools, they had to, the army had to go and take the kids away from parents, in the 1800s. I remember reading about that when they said your kid has to go to school, it used to be the parents are going, no, it's my child. I'm going to teach them what they need to learn, because I trust myself more than anybody to pass along the values that, I respect and wish to see in them. And now it's like, oh my goodness, I need to go have my, cupcakes and coffee in the afternoon. I hope the kids stay there longer so that, I can go out and get my nails done or my shopping, or, be left alone to have a few extra beers, or whatever parents are doing these days. And Eddie's right. You have to take full responsibility for everything in your life. And then nobody can mandate a mask. Nobody can mandate a vaccine. There's ways to make money without, oh my goodness, I need to get a vaccine to have my job. Find a new job, right? I need to wear a mask to do this. Find a way not to if you don't want to, right? It's like, really, it's time to be a real man and a real warrior and put your life on the line for everything, every choice, from the time you open your eyes to the time you close them. That's the hard thing. That's
very hard.
It's very hard. I'm looking at 3 men standing here chatting about this now, and I am as one of them. Like, I have huge respect for him, but where are all the people that are willing to lose their money, lose their job, lose their house, lose their wife or girlfriend? I guess you may have to at the time if they're not agreeing with you, lose your family, so-called blood family, but still be standing up for your convictions. That's the kind of maybe challenge that is required right now and what everyone seems to be facing, in my opinion. I think it's a good thing, personally.
But, really the hardest people to convince of this is the people that are closest to you. They tend to be the ones that are the least likely to listen to what you have to say. I'm sure you've both experienced that. I don't know why that is, but that's just a fact. Maybe someone else could talk to your family members that, are in your extended family that, if they're having difficulty believing or listening to what you say, maybe someone else would have a better time of it. Because I hear that all the time that, I've got all kinds of people that I work with that all agree with me, but I just can't speak to my daughter or my wife, or, you know, and they just won't, if I bring the data to them, they won't read it. They just, they've made their mind up. That's it. You know, I'm not looking. And I can understand the frustration that people experience. And we talked about that the other day as well, Lorenzo. You know, if you haven't woken up in 18 months, I think there's a pretty good chance you're not going to wake up until it comes and smacks you upside of the head. You know, we've got to look for the other people that are thinking like us, and we need to work together and stop it from happening. You know, because any revolution really takes 10 to 15% of the population for it to be successful. We've got that. We just got to find a way to come together to, you know, change the narrative. I don't mean physically take over. That's not what I'm saying. But I mean, you know, change the narrative and turn it on them, because we have the support, we have the data, we have the people behind us with the expertise, with the knowledge, and they've got nothing. They would fall flat in their face. So that's why they're doubling down so hard, you know, and using every tactic they can to try to shut you down from being able to get the truth out, because their biggest enemy is the truth.
Yeah,
I know, and it's so obvious, isn't it? It's. I mean, it's just weird. It's just like all these people, you know, just sort of, they obviously don't see it. They obviously have no reference point for what's going on here, because they think it's important to keep their job and stuff in their house, and it's like, well, in a communist society, you ain't going to have either. Right. Unless you send them fight now, it's all gone. You know, there's no going back to work and happy families under a communist, you know, dictatorship. And people just don't seem to understand that, you know, I guess the severity of where we are. It's just, I don't know.
You're right. They don't.
It's just doing my head. But it's like you said, if they're not going to, then they're never going to. You know, if they're not going to understand, then we just need to do what we need to do and get it to a point where we're the ones being seen, and then they're like, oh, that's the normal. Let's go join them. You know, because that's what people will do when they're the normal.
Oops, maybe we lost Cambell.
I think Cambell froze a little bit there.
Cambell froze, and he'll come back.
Yeah, it's you know, it's a very precarious position people find themselves in, because, you know, a lot of people don't want to know. It's like, I don't want to hear anything. You know, they close their ears and eyes, and they just want it to go away. And then, you know, if they do exactly what they're told, everything's going to go back to normal. Well, it's not, and it's something they need to learn.
Even normal, if people are honest, most of them didn't like their lives, you know, or waiting for the weekend or waiting for a vacation. You know, that's just what they learned. You know, I mean, who really wants to work 5 days a week at a job you don't like for 2 days off, where you kind of get to do what you do? And the fact that became normal, or 6 days a week, some people are working. And the fact that, you know, that became the normal way to be alive. And I was one of them, where you do what you got to do to pay the bills. And then, then you get a few days to yourself if you're lucky. And maybe you get that week off, or I'm going to fight for, you know, 12 days instead of 10 days off. And people don't realize that was already insane. You know, maybe that's how I got here, is when I was 6 or 7 or 8, I was looking at going, this is already crazy. Like, who wants to do something they don't want to do every day and pretend they're hanging out with people they like for their paycheck at the end of the month, so they can maybe retire when they're 65 or 55 or wherever people retire, and then, you know, grow old, decrepit, and die, you know, complaining about the fact that nobody respects them anymore, or life used to be good back in the day, or whatever it is, instead of, you know, realizing it's not only won't it go back to normal, it's like, for me, it's who cares? Normal was never so good.
Yeah.
Normal was never so real, I would guess the best way to put it, for me anyways.
Here's the thing, you know, with all the stuff that's going on, and I'm not trying to sound like I'm being cocky or anything, but I live my life like my normal life. You know, I'm sure there's things that you could probably point to that, you know, have changed, but I mean, I live like I did prior to this coming around. I'm not going to let these people take away my freedom. That's just it. It's not going to happen. You know, if I went back 5 years and we were having this conversation, and I'd say, in 5 years from now, Lorenzo, this is what's going to happen. You're going to be forced to take a vaccine. You're going to be locked down for 18 months. All of the measures that have happened, you'd have called me a crazy person and I should be put into an asylum. You'd never believe that your government would do or could do something like that to you. So if you walk yourself back 5 years and you look at what's happened now, and if it was back then, you would say, I would fight to the death that this wouldn't happen. Well, here we are 5 years later, and it's like, oh, well, I'm throwing in the towel. I'm done. You know, people, like I say, if you'd have suggested that this would happen 5 years ago, people would be screaming blue murder. There's no way that could ever happen, but it has happened. So what do you think's next? If in 18 months they've gone from 0 to this, what do you think the next 18 months could bring?
There's no reason for them. There's no reason for them to stop pushing, because you're not pushing back, right?
Right.
And people haven't understood. I mean, I've read the histories of political systems, of monetary systems. I've studied some through what Cambell shared. And I think the people that are in power, the people that have the money, the people that make the rules, they're not nice people. They're not going to give up their power. They didn't get there to be fair and equitable and kind. You really have to know the man next to you, or the person next to you, or have skin in the game, let's say, with the people making a community in your life, before you can really trust them to have your best interest at heart, let's say. And so maybe I've just been lucky in that I always disliked the systems from pretty much the time I was 5, watching schools and watching teachers and watching what they were trying to teach me and going, yeah, I think I can do a better job teaching myself.
Good.
Who are these people teaching? What values are they teaching? This is the thing. Why people just give away? I mean, why do people have kids? Just to give them away to a school, to someone else to raise for 20 years. I mean, it's a bit weird. It is.
All right. I guess Campbell's having a bit of challenges over there with the internet.
We now believe that you're supposed to send your kids to school. How it is. I think kids and adults have it too easy.
All right. He's gone again. Well, I'm going to say, I'm going to bring on a video in about 10 minutes. We did an interview for this show with Julian Rose. He's an organic farmer and an activist and a writer and an author. And he came from royalty, so to speak, from England to start fighting the system. He saw things from the inside out. And he chose, instead of having the comfortable life to live on his lands, to become an activist, organic farmer in Poland, and to kind of share what he's sharing on a spiritual, real and a personal level, and pushing back in his way. And he's in his 70s to show you, whatever it takes, no matter how old or young you are, if it's time to do something, it's time to do something. And there you go. Really, I think I've said as much as I can say without somebody deciding that they have to do what they have to do, and then they can bring their own challenges to the forefront. Is there anything that you fellows may like to leave our viewers with? I'm going to bring on Cambell, a video soon by Julian Rose. When we're finished talking here, we did a 20-minute recording on how to stand up for yourself from his perspective. As I was telling everyone, he came from aristocracy in Britain and gave it up to kind of, looking, I guess, literally in the eyes of the Queen and the people around her, and going, oh my goodness, maybe there's something more intelligent to be sharing with people in this world.
Cool. I just to finish, I'd say, for everyone, but especially men and boys, is just challenge yourself, guys. Challenge yourself. Get out there and make things hard, whatever it is. I know a lot of us, I've done a lot of martial arts, and that's kind of how I went about it. People are into the bush, people are into building things, whatever it is. Make life a bit hard for yourself, and then get through it. Work out how to do it. Get over it. Finish it. And when you turn around and you can say, look what I just did, that's power, guys. That's when you really feel the power and you understand that you did that. And if you did that, you can do anything. You don't need all the instructions. You don't need someone there. Just challenge challenge yourself and go for it. Fail spectacularly, and then learn from it, get up and get over the fence. I really think that's how you build character, and that's what we're missing is character. We need to get over this when as soon as we've got a bit of opposition or a bit of a challenge, we run away. It's too hard. We've got to get rid of that. It's got to be like, awesome, a challenge. Yeah, I'm up for that. We've got to switch that right around. So that's my biggest sort of bit I'd like to finish with. Challenge yourself. Make it hard. Get out of your comfort zone and get through it anyway. Okay? There's just challenges. No obstacles. Just challenges.
I think that's really well said. That's exactly what people need to do. I couldn't say it better myself.
Yeah, you said it well. I ended a chat with Eddie when I asked him one bit of advice for people, the men these days. He said, grow a pair and act from your guts, and pretty much straight to the point. You have to be willing to put your life on the line. You have to be willing to fail. You have to be willing to look like an idiot. You have to be willing to be called an idiot, to stand there and take it and figure out what that means for you. And then you can be a real man, I think, standing on the planet, and you will attract other people. Like Eddie, that school sounds interesting. If they ever need any virtual, reminds me of one quick story. When I was in the Sunshine Coast, I had a girlfriend at the time, had a couple of children, and they were homeschooling. And I went to visit, because they were looking for teachers, and they were having their meeting, and everyone was standing up and chatting about, I'm going to teach economics, and I'm going to teach electronics, and I'm going to teach cooking. And at the time I said, well, I'd like to stand here and teach children how to follow their dreams. They looked at me like I landed from Mars at the time. They never invited me back to a second meeting, right? And which was really funny at the time, because I thought, to me, that's what they wanted, but they really didn't. I think they just wanted to teach them other things. So I think, though, it's time right now to teach our children to follow their dreams, to follow their hearts, to see how to get in touch with their own intuition, and to realize if you have kids, it's your job to give them back to themselves, I would think. And it's your job to allow them to be free. It's your job to encourage them to be strong, whether they're men or women, and to follow what, to put them to their heart, and then to see where that takes them, and to not allow the ladies in dresses at the time to teach them how to masturbate when they're one.
I may pass on your offer to the group. I'm sure they'd love to hear from you.
I would be delighted to. I think it'd be fun just to sit back and say, this is how the challenges I've had. This is how I got to my heart. This is the, I would have loved, like you said, I would have loved someone to teach me how to start a fire, or to teach me how to go outside and hunt for myself, or to say, you should be seeing what your heart says, no matter what the other boys and girls are saying, and to see where that takes you. It would have took me, over 50 years to start to get here. So I might have done it a little quicker had I be encouraged in the right direction, when I was a younger lad, we'll say. But no worries, we're here now and we're doing good.
I'd agree.
All right, Eddie, thanks for joining us. I appreciate your time. I'm looking forward to doing more chats. I would love to do some more videos with you. It was a surprise that you came on and stayed for so long, a pleasant surprise, I may add. So thank you so much for coming, and bringing that strong look in your face. I think that's the most important thing from what I've seen, is to bring that strong look in your eyes, and to show people that, having been in the Army, having been a police, I was sharing this with my editor, doesn't mean you're a bad person or a good person. It's who you are that really counts, from the inside out. And there's good and horrible people everywhere. And, how you make your way in the world and how you show people what to do and how to do is very much, a walk in the talk instead of just talking the talk.
I'd agree. It was a pleasure, Lorenzo. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much, Eddie. I'll talk to you again soon. Take care. Thanks for being here.
Can't make me lie to my heart. No one tells me where I should start. Freedom first is what I say. Nothing now gonna get in my way.